Most people do not fail because they are lazy. They fail because they quietly break faith with themselves. Not once, but repeatedly. Each small compromise feels harmless in the moment. You delay. You soften the promise. You tell yourself it does not matter today. But over time, these quiet betrayals collect weight. They dull your inner voice. They weaken your trust in yourself. And slowly, without drama, your spirit learns not to believe you anymore. What makes this painful is not ignorance. You already know what to do. You have read enough, heard enough, promised yourself enough times, yet the cycle keeps repeating. Start strong, slip, restart. Apologize to yourself. Try again. This constant restarting creates a deep exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. It is not physical tiredness. It is spiritual fatigue, the weariness that comes from carrying hope and disappointment in the same hands, over and over again. This is where many people misunderstand discipline. They treat it as effort, as pressure, as force. They believe if they just push harder, want it more, or find the right motivation, everything will finally change. But discipline was never meant to be powered by strain alone. True discipline is not about trying harder. It is about becoming whole. It is about integrity, about whether your actions can stand in the light beside your words without flinching. There is a quiet fracture that forms when who you believe yourself to be no longer matches how you live. You may still speak the language of intention, but your days tell a different story. And this split creates constant inner tension, a low hum of guilt, a sense of always being behind yourself. You feel it in quiet rooms, in early mornings, in the still moments when excuses fall silent. Something inside you knows there is misalignment, and it longs for resolution. Many people sense this turning point but hesitate because it feels final. Letting go of negotiation can feel like loss, as if something familiar must be surrendered. In truth, what is released is not freedom, but confusion. What is lost is not softness, but self-deception. What remains is clarity, a grounded calm. The steady strength that comes from knowing your inner world is no longer divided. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is a quiet return to honesty, where your word begins to mean something again. First to yourself, then to the life you are building. This path begins by facing that truth without cruelty and without escape. Not to shame yourself, but to stop lying gently to your own soul. The question is no longer whether you can do better. The question is whether you are willing to stop negotiating with what you already know. Whether you will continue to bargain with tomorrow or choose alignment today. Because this moment is not about improvement, it is about decision. This choice shapes everything that follows here and now today. And if this speaks to something deep inside you, stay with me. Most people believe their problem is not wanting it badly enough. They assume that if they could just feel more inspired, more driven, more fired up, everything would finally fall into place. This belief quietly turns every failure into a moral judgment. When discipline collapses, the mind says, something is wrong with me. I am weak. I do not have what others have. But this belief is a burden you were never meant to carry. It mistakes human limitation for personal failure, and it drains hope instead of restoring it. Willpower feels powerful when life is calm, when sleep is full, stress is low, and nothing presses against you. Motivation seems reliable, but pressure reveals the truth. Fatigue, conflict, uncertainty, and emotional strain do not test character. They test systems. Under stress, willpower thins. It fragments. It does not disappear because you are broken, but because it was never designed to carry everything alone. Seeing this clearly is not an excuse. It is an invitation to humility and to compassion toward your own limits. When discipline fails again and again, it follows a pattern. Energy rises, effort increases, strain builds, and collapse follows. This cycle repeats not because you are careless, but because the strategy itself is unstable. Trying harder only tightens the loop. Understanding this restores dignity. It shifts the story from I am incapable to I was using the wrong tool. And that shift matters because hope can grow where shame once lived. There is also a quieter danger hidden inside the belief in strength alone. It breeds pride without meaning to. It teaches the soul to trust force over faith, effort over order, and pride always collapses under weight. When everything depends on your strength, failure becomes terrifying. You grip tighter, you push further, and when you finally fall, the fall feels absolute. This is not discipline. It is exhaustion disguised as virtue. A deeper wisdom understands that structure is not a cage. It is a form of grace. Boundaries do not exist to punish weakness, but to protect what is fragile. Structure holds you steady when emotion fades. It carries you when desire goes quiet. Receiving structure does not mean giving up freedom. It means releasing the illusion that freedom comes from constant choice. This is the moment where resistance often rises. The ego hears structure and thinks limitation, but the soul hears structure and recognizes safety. It senses rest approaching. It feels the relief of no longer having to prove strength every day. And once this shift begins, the heart becomes ready to hear something even deeper. Because if willpower was never the answer, the real work must begin somewhere else. There is a quiet difference between effort that depends on feeling ready and action that flows from knowing who you are. One waits for the right conditions. The other stands even when the ground is unsteady. When discipline is built on conditions, commitment rises and falls with mood, energy, and circumstance. But when discipline is rooted in identity, it no longer asks for permission, it simply acts. This is where the inner shift begins, moving from temporary effort toward an unconditional sense of self. When identity and behavior are aligned, something sacred takes place. Your actions stop arguing with your values. Integrity becomes lived, not imagined. This alignment is a form of faithfulness because it honors what you say you are. Even when no one is watching, the soul finds rest in this harmony. There is no longer a need to perform strength or defend intention. Life becomes quieter, steadier, more honest. Unclear identity creates hesitation. When you are unsure who you are, every choice feels heavy. You pause, you question, you delay. The mind fills with alternatives and doubts. But when identity is clear, decisions lose their drama, peace replaces negotiation, action becomes simple, not because life is easy, but because the inner standard is settled. You are no longer choosing what to do. You are expressing who you are. Many people live trapped in the language of trying. Trying sounds humble, but it carries a hidden cost. It keeps the door open for retreat. It allows the soul to remain divided. Trying means you are always on trial with yourself, always waiting to see if you will follow through. Over time, this uncertainty erodes confidence. It teaches the heart to expect inconsistency. The cost is not just progress, but trust. Identity, when chosen clearly, becomes an anchor. It does not eliminate emotion, but it outlasts it. Some days you will feel strong, other days you will feel empty. Identity remains. It holds firm through fluctuation. It steadies the mind when motivation fades and prevents emotion from becoming authority. This is not rigidity. It is grounding. It is knowing where you stand when everything else moves. When commitment rises from identity, it is no longer a task you carry. It becomes a declaration you live. This declaration is quiet, but powerful. It says, "This is who I am choosing to be," regardless of comfort or applause. Such commitment is not heavy. It is clarifying. It narrows the path and strengthens the step. And once identity is set, the next question is no longer whether you will act, but how that identity will shape your days. Every day begins with small, invisible debates. What time should I start? Should I wait a little longer? Maybe later would be better. These questions seem harmless, but they create constant mental noise. The mind wakes already negotiating, already weighing, already tired. This is why even simple intentions feel heavy before they begin. Predictability is not boring to the soul. It is calming. When time is settled, the inner room grows quiet, and the heart can breathe without rushing or delay. There is a deeper reason fixed rhythms bring peace. Order is woven into creation itself. Light rises and fades. Seasons turn without argument. The body sleeps and wakes according to patterns older than thought. When your life moves in rhythm, it participates in the same spiritual order. Fixed times are not rigid rules. They are agreements with reality. They mirror the steady faithfulness found in nature, reminding the soul that consistency is not force, but alignment. The body understands rhythm long before the mind does. When actions happen at the same time each day, resistance softens. Muscles, breath, and attention begin to prepare without command. Inner conflict fades because the body no longer needs convincing. It recognizes what is coming and meets it halfway. This is not discipline as struggle. It is discipline as cooperation, where effort decreases because the pattern carries the weight. Structure, when understood rightly, is an act of mercy. It protects the mind from endless bargaining. Without structure, every day demands fresh decisions, and every decision drains strength. With structure, choice dissolves into movement. You are spared the quiet exhaustion of deciding again and again. The mind is free to rest in execution instead of argument. What once felt strict becomes gentle because it removes pressure rather than adding it. When time negotiation disappears, energy returns. Not just physical energy, but attention. Focus that was scattered across planning and postponing comes home. This reclaimed energy flows into what truly matters, into presence, care, and purpose. You are no longer late to your own life. You arrive with steadiness, able to give yourself fully instead of partially. Over time, something subtle changes. Anxiety fades because the day no longer feels uncertain. There is a growing sense that what needs to happen will happen, not through urgency, but through inevitability. Confidence grows quietly, without noise or performance. You stop asking whether you will act and start trusting the rhythm to carry you forward. And once time itself no longer argues with you, the next question becomes how to remain faithful within that rhythm, day after day. At first, repetition feels uncomfortable. Doing the same thing again and again can trigger restlessness, even quiet resistance. The mind quickly labels this feeling as boredom and treats it as a warning sign. But boredom is not danger. It is a threshold. It is the moment where surface excitement fades and something deeper asks whether you will stay. Crossing that threshold is not about forcing enthusiasm. It is about learning to remain present when novelty disappears. Repetition slowly invites surrender. Each return to the same form loosens the ego's grip on control and preference. The part of you that demands stimulation begins to soften. Humility grows without effort, because repetition reveals how little the ego truly needs to lead. This surrender is gentle, not humiliating. It teaches the soul that growth does not always arrive with intensity. Often, it arrives quietly, through patience. When form remains consistent, attention is set free. The mind no longer scans for what comes next or wonders if something else would be better. Awareness deepens because it is no longer divided. Subtle details become visible. Small corrections appear naturally. This is how repetition creates space for real growth. Not by adding more, but by clearing distractions so presence can deepen. Modern life trains the mind to chase stimulation. Constant change promises excitement, but rarely delivers meaning. Shallow variety keeps attention busy while leaving the spirit unsatisfied. Faithful repetition does the opposite. It may look simple from the outside, but inwardly it creates depth. It builds stillness. It allows understanding to settle instead of constantly resetting. What seems plain becomes rich when you remain long enough to see beneath the surface. Structure, when trusted, becomes a teacher. It does not rush transformation. It shapes character slowly, almost invisibly. Day after day, repetition forms habits of patience, steadiness, and humility. You begin to change without needing to measure progress. Growth becomes something you inhabit rather than chase. Trusting this process requires faith, because results do not announce themselves immediately. Staying with repetition also retrains patience. It slows the urge to rush outcomes and softens the hunger for immediate reward. Over time, the heart learns that faithfulness itself is meaningful, even before results appear. This patience is healing. It steadies emotions and teaches the nervous system that safety can exist without excitement. In this steady space, character is shaped quietly. You begin to notice restraint, attentiveness, and endurance forming without force. Repetition becomes less about performance and more about presence. You show up not to impress, but to remain faithful. This steady returning builds trust within yourself. It teaches that consistency is not dullness, but devotion practiced daily. It reminds you that what seems ordinary can become sacred when honored repeatedly with care, attention, and humility, shaping the soul slowly, without noise, into something resilient and grounded through time itself unfolding within you. Mastery is often misunderstood as endless innovation. In truth, mastery grows from devotion to form, returning faithfully, even when nothing feels new, trains the soul to value depth over display. Over time, repetition stops feeling heavy. It becomes grounding, it becomes familiar like a well-worn path, and as discipline settles into the body and spirit, you become ready to face the question of how to continue when conditions are imperfect. Many people carry a quiet fear of failure that poisons consistency, not because failure hurts, but because it feels final. One missed day becomes a verdict. One imperfect effort becomes proof that something is broken. This all-or-nothing thinking turns discipline into a fragile structure that collapses under the slightest strain. Healing begins when failure is no longer treated as a moral flaw, but as part of being human. Shame loosens its grip when you realize that imperfection does not cancel commitment. Continuity is an act of faith. It says, "I will keep moving even when conditions are not ideal." Faith is not only expressed in moments of strength, but in moments of limitation. Choosing to act, even gently, even partially, keeps the path alive. It refuses the lie that only perfect effort counts. This kind of faith does not shout. It walks slowly, but it does not turn back. Small acts of consistency carry more power than they appear to. Each time you show up, even in a reduced way, you preserve something precious, your identity. You remind yourself that you are someone who continues. Self-respect grows not from flawless performance, but from keeping your word in spirit, even when form must bend. These small acts become quiet evidence that you can be trusted again. Compassion toward the self is often misunderstood as indulgence. True compassion does not excuse abandonment. It offers understanding without surrender. It recognizes pain, fatigue, and limitation, while still choosing presence. This balance is healing. Discipline no longer feels like punishment, and rest no longer feels like escape. Both become expressions of care guided by intention. Momentum is not merely physical, it is spiritual. It carries you when emotions fade and enthusiasm runs dry. Once momentum is established, growth no longer depends on how you feel in the moment. The practice begins to sustain you rather than drain you. This is why momentum matters more than intensity. Intensity burns bright, then disappears. Momentum endures quietly, day after day. Imperfection, when met with faithfulness, becomes formative rather than destructive. It teaches patience. It deepens humility. It strengthens resilience. Instead of stopping when things are messy, you learn to remain present within the mess. This reframing changes everything. Imperfect action is no longer a sign to quit. It becomes a sign to continue gently, steadily, without drama. Over time, this approach reshapes your inner landscape. Fear softens, trust grows. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and begin honoring the present one. Discipline becomes less about control and more about devotion. You are no longer chasing an ideal version of yourself. You are caring for the one who exists now, step by step, breath by breath. When momentum is protected this way, it becomes resilient. It survives tired mornings, difficult seasons, and unexpected disruptions. And once you understand how to continue without perfection, a deeper question arises. How do you remain steady when life itself interrupts the path you have chosen? Most fear around discipline does not come from effort, but from interruption, the unexpected day, the broken routine, The moment life refuses to cooperate, many people hold their breath trying to keep everything perfect because they believe disruption means collapse. This fear keeps the heart tense and watchful. True steadiness begins when fear is replaced with readiness, when the soul knows it has already prepared for what may come. There is deep spiritual wisdom in deciding before the storm arrives. When answers are chosen in advance, panic loses its power. The mind no longer scrambles for solutions under pressure. Instead, action flows from memory and intention. This kind of foresight is not pessimism. It is faith expressed through clarity. It trusts that preparation honors both responsibility and peace. Discipline, seen this way, becomes stewardship rather than control. It is not reacting in fear when plans fall apart, but caring wisely for what has been entrusted to you. Reactive discipline tightens and rushes. Proactive discipline stays calm and deliberate. It accepts that difficulty will come and chooses its responses ahead of time. Preparation changes how obstacles are experienced. What once felt like threats become confirmations. When disruption arrives and you continue anyway, identity is strengthened. The obstacle does not weaken the path. It proves the path is real. Each prepared response reinforces who you are becoming, not who you were afraid of being. Confidence born from preparation does not depend on comfort. It is rooted in clarity. Circumstances may shift, energy may fade, but direction remains intact. This kind of confidence is quiet and durable. It does not need reassurance from success. It rests in the knowledge that whatever happens, you already know how you will respond. When readiness becomes habit, fear slowly releases its hold. You stop bracing against the future and begin meeting it with steadiness. Life no longer feels like an interruption to discipline, but the place where discipline is practiced. In this way, preparation does not harden you. It grounds you, allowing calm strength to remain even when conditions are uncertain. Readiness also softens the nervous system. The body learns it will not be abandoned when plans change. Breath stays slower, thoughts stay clearer. This calm presence is not passive, it is alert without panic. Over time, the heart associates challenge with response instead of overwhelm. What once triggered urgency now invites attention, reinforcing steadiness as a lived experience rather than a concept. This embodied trust becomes a quiet refuge during pressure and a steady guide when the path feels narrow and time grows demanding again. This level of readiness marks a turning point. When fear of disruption fades, discipline becomes resilient. You are no longer surprised by difficulty or undone by change. With clarity established and responses prepared, the foundation is set. What remains is learning how to live faithfully within that structure, carrying it forward without fracture or delay. Discipline no longer needs to feel like a battlefield inside you. There is relief available when the arguing quiets and the constant inner tension loosens its grip. You were never meant to live at war with yourself. When structure holds your commitments, the mind can rest. The heart no longer has to negotiate every step. What once felt heavy begins to feel simple, and simplicity brings a deep, honest calm. Seen clearly, discipline is not pressure applied daily. It is an identity that has settled into place. When who you are and what you do are no longer divided, peace appears naturally. You stop bracing against your own intentions. You stop fearing yourself. Discipline becomes less about force and more about faithfulness, a quiet agreement to live aligned even when the world feels unsteady. You do not need countless plans or endless techniques. One clear path is enough, one rhythm, one structure you can return to without confusion. Overwhelm fades when choice narrows. Doubt softens when direction is clear. Choosing one disciplined path is not limitation. It is mercy, allowing your energy to gather instead of scatter. This is why 100 days matter, not as a test of strength, but as an act of faith and self-respect. Long enough for noise to fade, long enough for identity to settle, short enough to be chosen without fear. These days are not about proving anything. They are about practicing alignment until it becomes familiar and safe. As you step forward, there is no need for urgency or force. Calm commitment carries more power than intensity ever could. Each day becomes a quiet confirmation of who you are choosing to be. Over time, effort gives way to steadiness. Discipline stops demanding attention and starts offering support, like firm ground beneath slow, confident steps. Alignment brings wholeness. When your inner world agrees with your outer life, strength feels gentle instead of strained. You move with clarity instead of resistance. This is quiet power, the kind that does not need to announce itself. It is carried in warm stillness, in steady breath, in the simple knowledge that you are no longer divided. Over these moments, nothing dramatic is required. No reinvention, only consistency, chosen again with patience. Let the rhythm carry you when emotion is quiet. Let form guide you when choice feels heavy. Trust that growth is happening even when it cannot be felt. What you are building is not urgency, but endurance, not noise, but depth. This path does not rush you, it steadies you, preparing you to live with intention beyond the season. Remain attentive, gentle, and committed as the days unfold, without fear, comparison, or retreat within. If this path speaks to something deep within you, honor it. Choose the structure. Commit to the days. Walk forward without negotiation. Let discipline become a place of rest rather than struggle. In that steadiness, you will find resolve, peace, and the quiet strength to remain faithful to who you are becoming.